No one in the galaxy dared to marry the alien princess of Zerinthia. Her face was never seen by anyone. A dark veil always covered her from the day she was born. Stories passed from world to world. Anyone who looked at her face either went mad or died a slow, painful death. Kings, generals, and powerful alien lords came from distant stars to marry her, hoping to claim her beauty, her throne, and her fortune. But when they heard of the deadly curse, they all turned back. No one wanted to risk their life for a face they could never see. For many years, the princess remained alone, cursed and untouched, locked behind her silk veil. Her people whispered that she was a danger to all men, and so she stayed isolated. In the tallest tower of her palace. Then, one day, a human arrived. His name was Captain Darius Venn. He was no prince, no nobleman, just a wandering human trader with a worn-out ship and a sharp mind. He had fought wars, survived crashes, and seen many strange things across the stars. But when he heard about the veiled princess, something stirred inside him. Curiosity. Why had no one ever tried to truly know her? Why did every suitor run away in fear? Darius landed on Zerinthia under the watch of the Alien Council. They looked down at him, a human, weak, ordinary. They mocked his arrival. What business does a human have here? One of the council members sneered. I heard your princess is seeking a bondmate, Darius replied with a confident grin. I've come to offer myself. Laughter echoed in the royal court. The nobles jeered. Some even spat at his feet. Another. Fool, someone whispered. He'll run when he hears the truth. But Darius stood tall. He wasn't like the others. He didn't ask to see the princess's face. He didn't demand proof of the curse. Instead, he asked just one thing. Let me speak to her. The council was surprised. Most suitors demanded a glimpse of her beauty first. But this human? He wanted only words. Reluctantly, they allowed Darius to meet the princess, but under strict rules. He would see her in a grand hall where she would remain veiled and untouched. Guards stood at every corner, ready to kill him if he dared. To reach for her veiled dot when the princess entered, her presence filled the hall with quiet sadness. She wore silver silk that shimmered like moonlight, her face hidden behind a dark veil that seemed almost alive. Darius did not bow. He did not gawk. He simply smiled. So, Darius said, his voice warm, you're the famous veiled princess. And you are the foolish human, the princess replied softly. Her voice was like a melody, yet filled with loneliness. You know the stories. You still came. I don't believe in stories, Darius answered. I believe in people. She chuckled lightly, a sound no one had ever heard from her. You are strange, she whispered. All others demanded to see my face first. You don't? Darius shook his head. I've seen too many faces that were beautiful but cruel. What matters to me is what's beneath the veil. There was a pause. For the first time, the princess's heart stirred with curiosity. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever looked at her veil without fear or disgust. Then, human, what if I am truly cursed? She asked. What if looking at me will destroy you? Then I won't look, Darius said simply. A bond isn't built by eyes, it's built by trust. Those words shook the princess more than any promise of wealth or power. She had waited years, decades even, for someone to say such a thing, but the Alien Council was furious. They called Darius a liar, a trickster. They accused him of mocking their traditions. Still, the princess silenced them. I accept your proposal, she declared, her voice strong for the first time. This human, who asks for no beauty, who demands no proof, he will be my chosen. The court gasped. Some shouted in protest, but the princess had spoken, and no one could overturn her will. Darius smiled, but deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. Something was wrong, not just with the veil, but with the way the council reacted. He sensed there was more to the curse than mere death or madness. As he left the hall that day, whispers followed him like shadows. He'll die before the bonding is complete. One alien murmured. He won't survive the truth, said another. But Darius walked on, fearless. He had made his choice, not for fortune or fame, but for the mystery of a soul no one had ever tried to understand. And in the highest tower of the palace, the veiled princess stood by her window, wondering why this human was not afraid of her, and fearing the moment he might have to see her face after all. Asterisk. Captain Darius did not sleep that night. The palace gave him a chamber far from the royal tower, with thick walls and heavy doors. But no door was thick enough to silence the whispers that traveled through Zerinthia's halls. The human won't survive. He'll lose his mind if he ever sees her. Another fool, another death. But Darius wasn't afraid. As he stood by the window, looking at the twin moons of Zerinthia, he remembered something from his past, something he had never told anyone. Years ago, Darius had lost his sight in a terrible shipwreck. For months, darkness had been his only companion. He had walked in shadow, learned to listen, to feel, to sense the presence of others without ever needing his eyes. And in that darkness, he had loved. A woman on a distant colony had loved him for who he was. Blind, broken, human. She had died, but her memory remained like a quiet flame in his heart. Since then, Darius knew that eyes could deceive, but the soul could not. That was his secret. He didn't need to see the princess's face to know her worth. He had learned to listen between words, to feel the weight of loneliness in a voice. Yet there was something more deep inside. Darius felt that the stories about the princess's curse weren't fully true. Something didn't fit. If the curse was real, why had no one ever returned alive to describe it? Why did the council seem so eager to stop the bonding? There was a lie somewhere. Darius could feel it, and he planned to find out. The next day, a message came from the princess. She wanted to speak with him privately. A secret meeting in the hidden gardens beneath the palace. Darius agreed without hesitation. At midnight, under the pale light of Zerinthia's moons, Darius arrived at the garden. Silver leaves glowed softly, and strange blue flowers pulsed like tiny stars. The air smelled sweet, but the night carried a chill of danger. Then she appeared, the princess, still veiled, moving like a shadow among the trees. "You came," she whispered. "I said I would," Darius replied, smiling. "You wanted to speak without the council watching?" She nodded. "I need to warn you, human, the bonding. It is not what it seems." Darius raised an eyebrow. "Then tell me." The princess hesitated. Her hands, covered in thin gloves, trembled slightly. "I am not allowed to reveal everything," she said. "There is a law older than even the council itself. If my face is seen by an alien species, it awakens something, a reaction in their mind that destroys them." "But I'm human," Darius pointed out. "Yes," she whispered, "and that is why I fear for you most." Her voice broke slightly. "You might be the only one who can see me and survive, or you might die like the rest. I don't know." Darius stepped closer, careful, respectful. "Then let me ask you, do you want me to leave?" The princess was silent. The garden breeze made her veil flutter gently, but she said nothing. Then softly she replied, "No, I want you to stay." Darius smiled faintly. "Then I'll stay. Whether I see your face or not, that's your choice." Above them, hidden in the trees, eyes watched. The handmaiden of the princess, loyal but burdened with a terrible truth, listened from the shadows. She knew what the princess couldn't say, that the veil wasn't just tradition. It was protection. Not just for others, but for the princess herself. If the veil came off, the truth of her bloodline would be revealed. A truth that could shake the empire to its core. Far away, in the council chambers, alien lords gathered secretly. They planned a new plot, If the human survives the bonding, others will follow, one hissed. The curse will be broken. Our power will fade. So, we must ensure he never reaches the final rite. Assassins were summoned. Silent, skilled. Killers sworn to end the human before he could touch the veil, or worse, survive seeing what was beneath it. But Darius had lived through worse than assassins. And now, as he stood beneath the glowing trees with the princess before him, he knew one thing. Whatever the truth was, he would see it through, even if it killed him. The Temple of Echoes stood at the heart of Zerenthia's capital. Built from black stone and silver pillars, it echoed with voices of the past, ancient kings, forgotten queens, and those who had tried and failed to bond with the veiled princess. Now, for the first time in centuries, a human stood there. Captain Darius waited, standing alone on the ceremonial platform. The air was cold, the walls heavy with whispers of ghosts. Above him, 1,000 alien spectators watched in silence from dark balconies, their faces hidden behind ornate masks. But Darius didn't care about the stares, the fear, or the mockery. He was waiting for her, the princess. She entered without sound, her silver veil trailing behind like mist. Every step she took made the walls hum faintly, as if the stones themselves remembered her presence. She stood before Darius, close enough to touch, yet the rules were strict. No touching. No removing the veil. No questions. Only words. This was the silent bonding. A tradition so old that even the council didn't remember its origin fully. The rule was simple. If their souls connected during the exchange, the veil could be lifted. But only if the princess allowed it. No one had ever passed the test. The princess spoke first. "Why have you come, human?" Darius smiled gently. "Because no one else dared." "You seek fortune?" "No." "Fame?" "No." "Then what?" she asked, her voice softer than silk. "I seek understanding," Darius replied. "In all my travels, I've seen stars, wars, and wonders. But I've never met a mystery wrapped in sorrow." The princess paused. His words were not like those of past suitors who spoke only of riches or power. Darius's voice carried no hunger for gain, only a hunger to know her. "You are not afraid of me?" she asked. "I feared many things, but not you." She tilted her head. "You don't even know me." "Then let me know you," Darius whispered. Silence filled the temple. The alien crowd watched, holding their breath. The council fidgeted in their seats, uneasy. But hidden in the darkness, someone else was watching. A shadow among the pillars. The assassin. Sent by the council. He was ordered to kill Darius before the bonding could be completed. A knife coated with neurotoxin hung ready in his hand. He moved without sound, merging with the shadows. But Darius had the instincts of a soldier. He felt something wrong, a chill on his neck that wasn't from the cold. His eyes flicked sideways, just in time to catch a shadow shifting unnaturally. Without hesitation, Darius stepped back, narrowly avoiding the assassin's strike. The blade missed his spine by inches, grazing his side instead. The princess gasped behind her veil. Guards rushed forward, but Darius had already spun around, grabbing a fallen ceremonial staff from the ground. He blocked the next strike, his human strength and reflexes sharper than the assassin expected. The assassin hissed, realizing his advantage was lost. He darted back into the shadows, escaping before the guards could trap him. The princess rushed to Darius, her hands trembling, but she dared not lift her veil. "You're bleeding," she whispered. Darius grinned despite the pain. "I've had worse." She stared at him, her voice shaking. "Why do you still stand? You could have died." "I said I'd stay," Darius answered, steady. "A blade doesn't change that." The council descended into chaos. Some demanded the bonding be cancelled, claiming it was cursed from the start. Others feared the human would uncover too much if he survived. But the princess raised her hand, silencing them all. This human fought and did not flee. she declared. "The bonding will continue." Her voice echoed through the temple like a bell, clear and commanding. Darius stood tall, blood soaking his side, but his eyes steady on the princess. "I'm still here," he said quietly, "and I'm still not afraid." The princess stared at him from behind her veil. For the first time in her life, her heart beat not with fear, but with hope. She turned to the council and said, "Prepare the final rite." Somewhere in the shadows, the assassin watched. He had failed, but he knew the council would not stop. They would try again and again, because they feared what would happen if a human survived the bonding. But the princess and the human? They were now bound by more than tradition. They were bound by defiance, and in the Temple of Echoes, the walls whispered again of change, of rebellion, of a secret about to be unveiled. The Temple of Echoes was not as empty as it seemed. While the priests prepared for the final rite, while the princess remained behind her veil, and while Darius nursed his wound in silence, the shadows listened, watched, waited. The assassin had failed once. The council made sure he understood there would be no second chance. He had to kill the human before the bonding completed, before the veil was lifted, before the princess could choose. But even an assassin knew Darius was no ordinary man. Inside his small recovery chamber, Darius sat by the cold stone wall, stitching his own wound with thread and a needle he'd borrowed from a suspicious priest. His breath was heavy, but his mind was clear. He knew another attempt was coming. He had been hunted before. Pirates, warlords, even bounty hunters. But this was different. This was political. The council feared him, not because he was dangerous, but because he was close to something they wanted hidden. A soft knock echoed at his door. Darius stood immediately, his hand on the blade resting by his side. "Who is it?" No answer. Just another soft knock, like a whisper on wood. He didn't wait. Darius kicked the door open, but the hall outside was empty, except for a shape. A figure in black robes, standing halfway down the corridor, face covered, hands hidden. The assassin. Darius didn't think twice. He grabbed his blade and stepped out, but before he could charge, another figure appeared behind him. He was surrounded. "You should have left, human," the first assassin hissed, voice dripping with venom. "You should have feared the veil like the others." "I'm too stubborn for that," Darius replied coldly. The assassins rushed forward, but Darius was ready. The first lunged with twin daggers, swift, silent, deadly. Darius blocked the strike, but the second assassin slashed across his arm, drawing blood again. He gritted his teeth and fought back, blade clashing in the narrow hall. Steel rang against steel. But these were not common killers. They moved like shadows, never staying in one place. One leapt to the ceiling, another darted around columns, vanishing. Reappering. Darius was bleeding, slower, but he refused to fall. Suddenly, a voice screamed from behind the pillars. A figure in silver robes stepped between them, the princess's handmaiden. "Stop!" she cried. "If you kill him, the curse will awaken." The assassins hesitated, confused, but Darius saw the opening. He drove his blade into the nearest shadow, piercing cloth, flesh, bone. The assassin gasped and fell, lifeless. The second hissed, preparing another strike, but the handmaiden stood between them. "Touch him, and you'll doom us all," she warned. The assassin paused. Something about her voice, something ancient, commanding, made even a trained killer stop. Then he fled into the darkness, vanishing. Darius leaned on the wall, panting, bleeding. The handmaiden approached. "You fool," she whispered. "You should have never come here." "You think I don't know that?" Darius coughed, laughing bitterly. "But I did. So tell me, what is the curse really?" The handmaiden trembled, looking around. No ears, no spies, just them. "The curse," she said slowly, "is not madness, not death. It is the truth." Darius frowned. What truth? The princess's face. It is not cursed, it is forbidden. Her blood is not fully Zerenthian. She carries the mark of an ancient race, older than the stars, hidden in her very features. A power that the council fears, because if revealed, her claim to the throne would be unstoppable. Darius stared at her, breath heavy. So it was a lie all along. They would rather kill you than let the veil fall, she whispered. Why tell me this now? Darius asked. Because, she said, voice breaking, she loves you, and I cannot let you die without knowing. In the distance, bells rang. The final bonding rite was ready. Darius stood, wiping the blood from his face. Then I'll finish this. I've come too far to back down now. The handmaiden caught his arm. If she lifts the veil, and you survive, the empire will burn. Darius smiled faintly. Then let it burn. And he walked toward the temple again, knowing that when the veil lifted, nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The princess stood alone in her private chamber, hands shaking as she touched the veil covering her face. She had worn it since birth, a silk prison sewn with fear and lies. For years, she believed it was to protect others from her so-called curse. But now, she knew the truth. Her blood was mixed with something ancient, something the council feared. Not a curse, but a power. A power that only she carried, hidden beneath the veil. And now, there was a human, Darius, who was willing to risk everything to know her. He had bled for her, fought assassins for her, and stood tall even when death whispered in the shadows. But the princess was afraid. What if the stories were half true? What if showing her face would hurt him? What if he died the moment he saw her? Or worse, what if he saw her and felt disgust, betrayal, fear? She pressed her hands to her chest, feeling the rapid beat of her heart. She had never felt this before, the need for someone, the fear of losing them before she ever truly had them. A soft knock came at her door. Enter, she whispered. Her handmaiden stepped in, her face pale and worried. The human lives. The assassins failed. The princess exhaled in relief, but her heart sank deeper. Then the final rite must proceed. She whispered, "My lady." The handmaiden stepped closer, lowering her voice. "If you love him, don't let him see. Spare him." The princess turned to her, her voice trembling. "If I don't show him, he'll die by the council's hands. If I do, he may die by my truth. Tell me, what choice is this?" The handmaiden was silent, her eyes heavy with sorrow. Suddenly, a hidden door creaked open. A secret passage used only by royals. Darius stepped inside. The princess gasped. "How?" "Your handmaiden led me," Darius said, his voice soft but firm. He looked exhausted, blood-stained, but his eyes held fire. "I needed to see you, before the rite." "You risked everything just to sneak in here?" She whispered. "I risked everything the day I stepped on this planet," Darius replied. "I need to know. Do you want me to stay? Truly, or is this just a duty to you?" The princess felt her throat tighten. No one had ever asked her what she wanted, only what the council demanded. She stepped closer, her veil brushing the air between them. "I want you to stay," she admitted, voice shaking. "But I'm afraid." "Afraid of me?" Darius asked gently. "No," she whispered. "Afraid you'll die when you see me," Darius smiled faintly. "Then don't show me because you're scared. Show me because you trust me." She reached out, stopping just short of his cheek. She wanted to touch him, but her gloves separated them, as always. "I want to trust you," she said. "But I don't trust myself." Darius took her hand carefully. "Then let me trust for both of us." Her breath caught. She was a princess, a royal, a figure of power, but in that moment, she felt small, fragile, human. Outside, the bells of the temple rang again. The handmaiden whispered, "They'll come for you soon." If you refuse the right, the council will declare you unfit, and they'll kill him anyway. The princess knew it was true. There was no way out. She had to choose. Reveal her face, risk killing Darius ... or keep the veil and watch him die by politics and blades. Tears gathered in her eyes behind the silk. I don't know what to do, she confessed. Darius smiled sadly. Then let's face it together. Whatever happens. In that moment, the princess made her choice. She would not let fear rule her life anymore. She would reveal the truth, even if it cost her everything. Outside the chamber, guards marched toward the temple. The council was waiting. The entire empire was watching. And the princess knew, the next time she stood before Darius in the temple, the veil would fall, and the galaxy would change forever. The Temple of Echoes stood quiet, but the air was heavy. The alien nobles filled the dark balconies, their jeweled eyes fixed on the ritual platform. They had waited centuries for this moment, not because they wanted the princess free, but because they were certain it would end in death. No one had survived seeing the princess's face. And tonight, they believed, the human would die like the rest. Darius stood at the center of the platform, his wound still aching, his body tired, but his resolve unbroken. His eyes never left the archway where the princess would appear. Then the chamber lights dimmed. The sound of soft bells chimed from the temple priests, and the doors opened. The princess walked forward, alone. She was draped in her silver veil, her body moving gracefully, yet each step was heavier than the last. She knew what would happen. Here, she had chosen to end the lie, even if it cost Darius his life. She stood before him. Just a breath apart, the priest raised his staff. By the rights of the ancients, by the blood of the first kings, the final step may commence. The veiled one must now reveal her face, or the bond shall be void. A deadly silence fell. The princess raised her hands to her veil. They trembled, her fingers cold beneath the silk gloves. Darius said nothing, his face calm, his eyes holding. No fear, her heart raced. Every voice inside her screamed to stop, to run, to protect him by keeping her face hidden forever. But Darius whispered, I'm here, I'm not afraid. Those words anchored her. She gripped the veil and slowly pulled it away. The silk slid down, soft as a side dot, and then her face was revealed. The crowd gasped. A wave of horror, confusion, and awe rippled through the balconies. Some covered their eyes. Others stared, unable to look away. Her skin shimmered, but not like any alien. It was pale with a silver undertone, as if moonlight lived beneath her flesh. Her eyes, they burned with a soft blue glow, like twin galaxies caught in a woman's gaze. Intricate lines of faint gold traced across her cheekbones, not scars, but marks of an ancient lineage, a people long thought extinct. She was not fully Zerenthian. She was something else, something older, rarer, purer. Darius looked at her, breathing slowly. She braced herself. She expected him to scream, collapse, die. But Darius smiled. You're beautiful, he whispered. Her breath caught. She blinked, uncertain, afraid she had misheard. You single quotes read ... not afraid. No, Darius said, stepping closer. I've stared into the void of space, and nothing there was half as breathtaking as you. The princess's eyes shimmered with tears she never thought she could shed. For the first time in her life, someone saw her. Not her veil, not the lie, but her, and did not look away. The nobles erupted in chaos. Some shouted that the human must be executed, that the right was a fraud, that the curse was broken. Impossible, but others ... Others stared in wonder, whispering that the curse was false, that the council had lied for centuries to hide the truth. Then the princess spoke, her voice clear as crystal. The veil is gone. The lie is dead. And this human, this man, is my bondmate. The priests hesitated. The council screamed. But the people watching from the balconies, they cheered. A shift had begun. Darius reached out, his hand open, and the princess took it with her bare fingers. For the first time, skin touched skin. Warm, real. No madness. No death. Only connection, but in the deepest shadows of the temple. The surviving assassin watched. His orders had changed. No longer just to kill the human. Now, they wanted both dead, because the veil was lifted. And the empire would burn. The temple shook with noise. Shouts, gasps, screams. A storm of voices flooded the grand chamber. The veil was gone, and the truth stood in the open. The princess, face unveiled. Marks of ancient power glowing faintly on her skin, held Darius's hand, their fingers intertwined. In the balconies above, the council raged. Their centuries-old secret had crumbled in moments. The lie was exposed. The curse was nothing but a shield for their power. Now, before the eyes of the empire, the people saw the truth. The human had survived. The high priest slammed his staff on the ground, his voice booming across the temple. This union is forbidden. The human must be executed. The princess must be confined. Darius stood protectively in front of her. You'll have to kill me first. The guards surrounding the platform hesitated. Their blades were drawn, but their hands trembled. Some had seen the princess's face, not the face of a monster, but of a queen they had never known. The stories were wrong. Then from the darkness, a new figure emerged, the assassin. His cloak torn, his face partially revealed. He wasn't just a killer, he was one of the council's secret sons, trained not just in death, but in silencing history. I'll do what the cowards won't, the assassin hissed, pulling twin daggers from his belt. The princess stepped forward, but Darius stopped her. His eyes didn't leave the assassin. His heart thundered, his body still weak from the earlier fight, but he stood firm. Come then, Darius said. Let's see if your blades can cut through truth. The assassin charged, his form a blur of shadow and silver steel. The crowd held their breath, but Darius didn't move like a trained soldier. He moved like a man with nothing left to lose, nothing to fear. He dodged the first strike, blocked the second with a shattered ceremonial staff nearby, and struck the assassin in the ribs. They fought violently, each strike louder than the last. Darius's body was pushed to its limit, his breath ragged, his vision blurred. But in his mind, a single vow burned: I will not die here. Not before her. Then, the princess raised her hand, and the marks on her skin glowed brighter. A pulse of energy rippled from her palm, invisible yet powerful. The assassin froze mid-strike, his body seized by a force he couldn't see. His blades dropped to the floor. Everyone watched in silence as the princess stepped down, her eyes glowing like stars. The curse, she said, was never on me. It is on those who lied. She touched the assassin's forehead, and the glow faded. He collapsed, unconscious but alive. The princess looked to the council. I am not your prisoner. I am your rightful heir. Some nobles stood frozen. Others dropped to one knee, unwilling to defy the sight of ancient power. But one counselor sneered, raising a plasma rifle hidden beneath his cloak. Darius saw the movement. Without thinking, he threw himself in front of the princess just as the shot fired. The sound was deafening. The crowd screamed, but when the smoke cleared, Darius was still standing, barely the plasma shot searing through his shoulder. He smiled weakly. Still. Not afraid. The princess caught him before he fell. She looked into his face, touched his cheek, his skin burning with pain, yet his eyes still focused on her. I chose you, she whispered, and I won't let you die. She stood, holding Darius in her arms, her voice echoing through the temple. I am your princess. He is my bondmate. And if you raise another hand against him, then I shall rule not as your queen, but as your reckoning. Silence. Then the handmaiden knelt first, then the guards. Then, slowly the balconies filled with aliens bowing. One By one, the council was broken. Their power shattered. The princess turned to Darius, who smiled despite the pain. "Did we win?" he whispered. She smiled back. "We just began." Later, in the quiet of the palace, she sat by his bedside. "Veil discarded forever. You risked everything," she said, softly. Darius chuckled weakly. "I told you, I wasn't after your face." "What were you after?" "Someone worth dying." "Oh, the princess leaned close. "Then live for me instead." And he did. Their story became legend, of the human who dared to bond without seeing, and the princess who burned an empire of lies to claim her truth. Together, they ruled. Unveiled, unafraid.